The Republican One Big Ugly Bill included the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. It also included the largest cut to nutritional assistance in American history. Republicans cut $186 billion from SNAP in July, which is why we're facing this crisis right now. And they did all of this back in July. Why? So they could provide massive tax breaks to their billionaire donors. That's what Republicans have done during this presidency. And now, because of their continued refusal to even sit down and have a conversation with Democrats, despite us repeatedly making clear that we will sit down with Republicans anytime, any place, anywhere, here at the Capitol or back at the White House, to have a serious conversation about reopening the government, supporting our hardworking federal employees, and addressing the health care crisis that Republicans have created, the affordability crisis that Republicans have created, and now the hunger crisis that Republicans are creating by threatening to withhold SNAP benefits, even though the Trump administration has the money to make sure that not a single American goes hungry. Questions?
Mr. Leader, good afternoon. As somebody who flies and travels the country often, are you fearful of flying with air traffic control issues and safety issues?
Well, I'm very thankful for our hardworking air traffic controllers and our TSA agents and everyone who has been working hard without pay for a month because Donald Trump and Republicans decided to shut the government down. And we need to do everything possible to reopen the government. We can start by Republicans in the House ending their 5-week vacation and getting back to work. Like, it's extraordinary that Republicans have been on vacation for 5 weeks, cancel votes 5 consecutive weeks. They're getting paid to go camping and hiking and travel to Europe. This is what House Republicans are doing, documented over the last 5 weeks. They're getting paid, and yet they're forcing federal employees to be furloughed without pay or to work. And it has to end. Like, Donald Trump needs to get serious, give permission to Mike Johnson and John Thune to sit down and negotiate with Democrats. That's all it takes.
The personal concern about your own safety when you travel with somebody.
I am very confident in the ability of hard-working air traffic controllers, TSA agents, and others who are continuing to do their jobs with the highest degree of professionalism. Thank you.
Have there been any early conversations with the White House this week about setting anything up with the president after he gets back from Asia? Something next week with you guys?
There haven't been any conversations from the White House. Leader Schumer and I made clear last week we wanted to meet with the president before he jetted off to Asia. And he's found time in Asia to meet with a wide variety of folks pretending to fix problems related to the tariffs that he has created. And he'll be back in the next day or so. He needs to sit down with Democrats. Like, for 29 days, understand, Donald Trump has spent more time talking to Hamas and the Chinese Communist Party than he has in talking to Democrats on Capitol Hill to end the Trump shutdown, reopen the government, find a bipartisan path toward a spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people, and address the health care crisis that Republicans have created. That's an unacceptable thing to the overwhelming majority of Americans, that this American president, in the middle of a shutdown that he's created, while refusing to address the Republican health care crisis, can find the time to talk to Hamas and the Chinese Communist Party, but can't talk to people who represent half the country, including many Republicans in our districts who are being hurt by Republican policies. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Speaker Johnson this morning said that he's given up on leadership, referring to Leader Schumer and yourself, called you both irredeemable. He said some things about Mamdani being the face of the Democratic Party. What's your reaction to that? Have you spoken to Speaker Johnson, A, in response
I spoke to him briefly this week, but he had nothing to say about the death threats, and that's irredeemable. I don't expect to hear anything from Republicans because they've created this situation. Donald Trump pardoned hundreds of violent felons who brutally assaulted police officers, more than 140 or so who were seriously injured, and then released them back into communities across the country. And Mike Johnson and House Republicans and Senate Republicans, they all support that irresponsible act, that un-American act by Donald Trump. So they're irredeemable on a whole host of issues. They certainly are irredeemable, these Republican extremists, when it comes to actually standing up for the American people. Donald Trump and Republicans promised, their core promise last year was to lower the high cost of living on day one. That's what Republicans said. That's what they communicated to the American people. And we know that Republicans lied, stone cold liars to the American people when they promised to focus on addressing the high cost of living. Costs are not going down in America, they are going up. Housing costs are up, grocery costs are up, electricity prices are through the roof, child care costs are up, and now because of Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, we know that premiums, copays, and deductibles for the overwhelming majority of Americans, including but not limited to more than 20 million Americans who receive their Affordable Care Act tax credits, are about to explode. Republicans have done this, and they now refuse to even sit down and address the health care crisis that they have visited on the American people.
The conversation was related to the shutdown that you had.
It was a brief conversation. I reiterated our position as it relates to a willingness to sit down to find a bipartisan path forward, that we were going to continue to support our hardworking federal employees who they've been victimizing since January 20th, that we need to reopen the government, and we need to do it now, but we also need to address the Republican health care crisis. Our position as Democrats has been clear. We're not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. And by the way, we're not going to allow them to pretend as if they support nutritional assistance to the American people. They just cut $186 billion from SNAP, literally 2 or 3 months ago, in their one big ugly bill. Largest cut to SNAP in American history. The extremists on the other side of the aisle are irredeemable. That's why they're getting ready to go down in flames politically in California, in New Jersey, and in Virginia next Tuesday. Thanks.
Obviously, you and Leader Schumer have been on the same page when it comes to this government shutdown issue, but you are not on the same page when it comes to endorsing the Democratic nominee, Zohran Mamdani, for mayor in New York. Does this show a rift in the Democratic Party that the two Democratic leaders here in Congress are not in agreement on endorsing the Democratic nominee in New York?
No.
We're talking about now potentially more than 40 million people that are not going to get their SNAP benefits, and thousands of federal workers who are going to miss their second paycheck now. At some point, does the pain from the shutdown, at the very least, match pain from people having to pay higher premiums if these subsidies are not?
We want to reopen the government and do it immediately. And Donald Trump needs to instruct his employees here in the Capitol, that would be Mike Johnson and John Thune. They work for Donald Trump. They don't work for the American people. In fact, Donald Trump is the one who recently said, "I'm the president and the Speaker of the House." This is extraordinary stuff. Like, Donald Trump is openly mocking Republican leaders. We can find a path forward, but it's not going to come from Republicans in the House and the Senate at the leadership level. It's got to come from the Trump administration saying the American people have had enough of this Republican shutdown, have had enough of the refusal to deal with the health care crisis. As Marjorie Taylor Greene has indicated, this is a Republican health care crisis, and they refuse to do anything about it. She can't find their health care plan. We can't find their health care plan because it doesn't exist. So all of this pain that's being visited upon the American people by Donald Trump and Republican policies needs to end. And we're saying we remain ready, willing, and able to find that bipartisan path forward to ending it and addressing the needs of the American people. Very early on, like when we came back to Congress after the August district work period, Democrats in the House and the Senate, we were very clear. We want to enact a spending agreement that's bipartisan, but it has to meet the needs of the American people in terms of their health, public safety, and economic well-being, particularly as it relates to driving down the high cost of living. That shouldn't be too difficult to find common ground on if Republicans were actually serious. But they're not. And that's what we've seen from Republicans over the last 29 days.